USC and UCLA might be flipping the script in national college football recruiting. Sports writers are hedging their bets on both the off seasons for the Lakers and the LA Kings. But one thing they all agree on, the Rams aren't necessarily going to be good for a while. Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos Morning Report. Back in this cloud of humidity and despair known as Tulsa, Oklahoma, on July 20th, 2023. Whatever. We're going to be happy. We're going to talk LA sports. If you like being in the know about LA sports, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And comment. I try to get back to every one of you guys. Now, before we go through the news and notes, a look at the scoreboard. Julio Urias just had pretty much the worst outing in his career. That plus the injury he had earlier this year, not exactly a good look when you're going into free agency, dude. He gave up all 8 runs in an 8-5 Dodgers loss in Baltimore yesterday. A career high. Yikes. Meanwhile, today, the Sparks are finally back from the WNBA All-Star break. I'm sure we were all just holding our breath until our faces were turning blue, waiting for the Sparks to get back to the court. They have a 6-game losing streak. They're in Minnesota today at 5. Now, I've noticed something, particularly with USC, and then I had to pause and realize that UCLA has a bit of an impact on this as well. We had always thought over the last decade or so that ever since Pete Carroll left USC to go back to the NFL, that California recruits couldn't wait to get those ugly-ass Oregon uniforms. Whatever. We had weird fashion trends when we were kids too, right? I remember some people I grew up with, they were listening to Crisscross. They would run into the restroom, turn their jeans inside out, and walk around like that. So if we wore that when we were young, if we wore MC Hammer pants when we were young, who are we to clown the current group of youngsters out there who want to wear those nasty ass Oregon jerseys? But that's neither here nor there. We weren't losing our recruits solely to Oregon. California has been exporting its talent in college football now for a decade. More than half of the recruits from California that would be a top 100 recruit, yeah, they were going to other schools in the Midwest or the SEC, but primarily the Big-10. Michigan, for example, signed 13 top 100 Californians since the year 2014. What if you're Ohio State? Oh, by the way, C.J. Stroud, Heisman candidate, he's from California. So you're sitting there saying, wait a second, it's not just Oregon. But there is a belief now that because USC and UCLA have joined the Big-10, coaches and scouts are agreeing that if these two schools can offer recruits something that nobody else can, not in the Big-10, not in the SEC. Big competition in a major media market. It's not the Hollywood lifestyle. It's not the beach. It is a combination of major competition in a major media market. Zach Charbonnet's stepfather told The Athletic that if the schools can figure out how to do NIL, name, image, and likeness, that they become a serious recruiting threat across the country. If you think about it, Charbonnet, also a California guy, where'd he go? Michigan. And then Michigan changed up its offense and he realized he wasn't getting what he needed, so he came back to UCLA and started dominating. But having said that, at the moment, no Big-10 team outside of USC has landed a recruit in the top 100 in the class of 2024 from California. Meanwhile, Midwest high school coaches are also noticing that they are getting letters and phone calls from USC recruiters. Said a coach, That's going to influence kids from an NIL standpoint because it's opening up the LA market. More primetime games, more visibility, unquote. And then, of course, he added the fact that now that you can get paid as a college football player, more chances to make more money. Now, I've mentioned USC a lot in this little part of the clip so far. But before you sit there and go, well, wait a second, James, sounds like UCLA is getting left in the dust. Oh, really? Anybody ever hear of Dante Moore? I will grant you that Detroit doesn't exactly give people this image of the heartland, right? But it's not a coastal city. Detroit is in the middle of the country. So yeah, if USC and UCLA play their cards right, there could be a major flipping of the script in terms of college recruiting in the near future. Dan Wolke of the LA Times is reporting that the Lakers, yes, they are in the mix for free agent center Christian Wood, but so are the Chicago Bulls. Chicago, by the way, can actually theoretically offer more than the Lakers. Now, if you want a ring, you go to LA because the Lakers roster is significantly better than what the Bulls can offer. But Chicago has about $7 million in cap space. This is because they got a special exemption from the NBA over Lonzo Ball's injury. The Lakers could only offer maybe about $2.5 million. Now, for his part, Wood, who's the best free agent left on the market, he's not in a rush to decide. And I can't say that I blame him. But talking about the Lakers, because I've been reading reviews on their summer league, and it strikes memories of one thing I hated back when I was a sports writer, back before the news industry imploded. The Scribes would always hedge their bets. Every offseason, your team, all the moves that they were making, man, it was like the Avengers, pre-Thanos. Your team couldn't lose with all the great moves that they were making. Same for the drafts. Have you ever noticed nobody ever gets an F in their draft reviews, the draft grades? The worst grade anybody ever gets is a C. It's because nobody wants to go out and says this sucks. But then all of a sudden they start to hedge their bets. And the sports writers are doing that with both the Lakers and the LA Kings. The Athletic agrees that Max Christie did in fact have a breakout summer league for the LA Lakers. Called it shocking, as a matter of fact. Moreover, the scribe for The Athletic thinks that undrafted free agents Colin Castleton and D'Moy Hodge might be keepers. But the two draft picks for the Lakers, yeah, now he's hedging his bets. The Lakers allegedly had this really smart draft, right? Yeah, they now believe that Jalen Hood-Schifino and Maxwell Lewis look like G League material. Hedging the bets. And what about the LA Kings, right? The Athletic asked itself which team has improved the most in this offseason. Now, the Kings, for all the change that came about, 14th. Mid. What? You would think that it would be higher. The writer even agrees that you would think with the names that were added that they would have improved more. The problem that the writer has is who the Kings gave up. They do concede that should LA make the playoffs, which by the way, they should, that they will be a handful to deal with because they have strengthened themselves in center. They have stability on defense. Again, the writer is hedging his bets. Why are you doing this? Why speculate when you can just sit there and go, you know what? Instead of speculating, I'm going to stick to the news. You're hedging your bets. Now, as for how the roster shakes out with the LA Kings right now, if you look at the depth chart, you have Philip Deneau all of a sudden dropping from second line center to third, and that is Philip Deneau might wind up being one of the best third line centers in the NHL, frankly. You got Anze Kopitar, Pierre-Luc Dubois, then you have Philip Deneau, and then after that, Blake Lizotte. Extremely deep down the middle. Much like the two teams for the LA Kings that won the Stanley Cup about a decade ago. But there are questions in terms of what the Kings have after you look at center. For example, Kevin Fiala is the best left wing on the roster by far. But does that mean he gets to go on the first line with Anze Kopitar? Because Quentin Byfield actually thrived with Anze Kopitar. You theoretically drop Kevin Fiala to the third or second line, you still get the offensive production, and the Kings all of a sudden look like a deeper team. There's all kinds of questions like that. The Pierre-Luc Dubois deal sent Gabriel Velarde to Winnipeg, right? That's going to open up a roster spot for Arthur Kaliev. Now, definitely the top 4 defensemen are solid, but the third pairing is up for the taking. So again, the sports writers are hedging their bets, but we are going to stick to the facts. There's big changes that have gone on with the LA Kings. It's just that the dust hasn't settled yet. Because just because you may be the most talented person at that particular position doesn't mean you're going to be on the top line. The Athletic reporter who I mentioned earlier went to Summer League and hedged his bets about the Lakers. He was profoundly pessimistic about the Charlotte Hornets. The Charlotte Hornets had 8 roster players or draft picks on that team. In other words, they should have been what the Lakers were when it was the baby Lakers era with your Lonzo Ball, your Brandon Ingram, whatever. They had a combination of 8 roster players plus draft picks, and they went 1-6. Ouch. But again, hedging your bets. He is not that pessimistic about former UCLA player Amari Bailey. He's not even predicting big things for Bailey, mind you. He just says Bailey misses too many shots, but he does create his own shot, which theoretically, because he's a creator, might wind up opening up a roster spot. Are you noticing the theme? The Scribes are hedging their bets. But one of the few things that Scribes can agree on is that the Rams are going to be awful next year. How long will they be awful? I'm not sure. See, ESPN tried to create something called Future Power Rankings. Not just for next season, but what about the next 3? Now, of the 2 LA teams, the big surprise from this Future Power Ranking is that the Rams dropped all the way down to 28. See, they had a formula. Do you remember how I said nobody gets a failing grade when it comes to sports writers rating teams? The Rams are 28th. They got a C grade. A C. Do you see what I'm saying? Hedging your bets. They're just above teams like the Texans and Raiders. The reason that they ranked them with a C is because the Scribe thinks that Sean McVay could outcoach you and steal a couple of wins. Here's my problem with these Future Power Rankings from ESPN. The Rams have cleared so much cap space. The Rams have now got a full cachet of draft picks because they no longer are effing them picks because they know they're not Super Bowl contenders. You don't know what the Rams are going to look like in 2024. You don't know what they're going to look like in 2025 either. So it's way premature to try to sit there and say that the Rams are going to be the 28th best team in terms of the immediate future. Next year, I'll listen to it. After that, all bets are off. Now, as for the Chargers in the Future Power Rankings, they're 13th ranked. And I'll be honest, that seems a little low. The writer suggests that he would have them as more of a contender, though, if the Bolts didn't get injured as often as they do. Honestly, I think that's fair. I'll go with that. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Let me know what you think about USC and UCLA possibly flipping the script and becoming dominant in college football recruiting. Let me know if you think there's any validity to the reviews of the Lakers in the Summer League or Amari Bailey in Summer League. And if you enjoy the content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos because we talk LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corcha El Queso production. Take care.